Thinking Out Loud with Dave Palmer. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Yes, welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host. And yeah, why are people so fascinated with death and darkness? It seems to be getting worse and worse each year. To talk about that and maybe see it through the lens of St. Thomas Aquinas, we've got Dave Palmer. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Keith. Good to be with you this morning.
Likewise. So why do you think people are so obsessed with death and darkness today?
Well, first of all, yesterday morning at this time, I was making breakfast, listening to you and Monsignor Pope, and you were talking about a similar topic, and I was so intrigued by what y'all were talking about. I said, I want to weigh in on this tomorrow. So here I am. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's everywhere, like you all said yesterday. In fact, I would say the one theme of people decorating for Halloween is death. I mean, I have a next door neighbor who has all kinds of skeletons all over the yard. He even has a skeleton of a dog. And obviously skeletons are a reference to death. And then I have another neighbor across the street who has, ghosts hanging from their trees. And ghosts also would be a representation of death. And so I got to thinking of it is that really, in some ways, I got to see almost a positive in that every single one of us is, we're always looking, whether we're thinking about it consciously or not, towards our death. It's always in the future. We know it's coming. Debbie on Take Two yesterday, her topic on this show was, "Are you afraid of death?" And she had all of these people calling in and talking about it. And I also remember one time hearing Steve Ray, the popular Catholic apologist. He said that he has a skull on his desk. And, this whole memento mori, that's, remember that, you're going to die. And so he wants that there because he wants to remember that he's going to die and he's got to live accordingly. So I think, in a sense, that's what the culture is doing. They may not be as deliberate about it. It's almost that they kind of want to make fun of it a little bit. It's like there's subconsciously, they're thinking about their death. They know it's on the horizon. And so let's kind of make light of it. And we're just kind of putting it out there for the kids and entertainment. But so I actually see it in some sense as just a subconscious acknowledgement that we're going to die. And so if you see it that way, it's true, but maybe a little deeper reflection needs to be put on it than just, decoration in front of our house. But again, I can't judge any individual person as to why they're doing it. But I will say that St. Thomas Aquinas, in his teaching on guardian angels, I think this is very important because when we're facing death, when we know it's inevitable, how cool it is to know that God has assigned an angel to each one of us in order to help us get to our final end, which is heaven. And so you look at this culture that's really obsessed with death. And if they understood this teaching and in God's providence, what he's doing to help us get to our final end individually, I think this is a really good topic around the water cooler at work. If you can kind of incorporate, hey, have you ever heard about the guardian angels, And so anyways, I've, as you might expect, I got a few points from St. Thomas Aquinas about guardian angels that I'd like to mention. Want me to go ahead and go right into it, Keith?
Let's dive into it.
Okay, so I got about 5 things. And so first of all, he says, is every man guarded by an angel? And of course, we know that that's a teaching of the church. And he says, according to divine providence, it's chiefly exercised towards what remains forever, whereas regards things which pass away, the providence of God acts so as to order their existence to the things which are perpetual. And all that means is that the lower creatures, because they don't live forever, are kind of ordered to our good. And it also goes for the higher creatures, the angels. God has created this amazing order of angels that really are ordained to help us in our final end, right? Especially the guardian angels. And then he says, do the guardian angels belong to the lowest order? Okay, so there's 9 orders of angels, starting with the seraphim and going all the way down to the regular angels above them, the archangels. And interestingly, there are 2 main doctors that Thomas relies on. One of them is St. Gregory, and the other one is an early church theologian named Dionysius. These are the 2 guys that wrote a lot about angels, and Thomas really relies on them heavily. They're not in agreement as far as the exact order. They agree on most of them, but there's a little bit of disagreement. But what they do agree is that every single order of angels has a particular ministry. They have a particular thing. Like, for example, there's an order called the powers, and they coerce demons. There's one called the virtues, and they work miracles in like corporeal things. And the guardianship of the whole human race is under the principalities. So what he says is that if an angel is assigned to a specific man, like your guardian angel or Tim's, that's a very specific mission. It's not as broad as, the whole human race, right? So this is the lowest of the angels, but it's kind of cool because you'd rather have a friend who really thinks about you all the time rather than trying to be concerned about the entire world, right? And so the guardian angels are very deliberate in our salvation. Yours is looking at you, mine is looking at me, right? So that's kind of cool. Then he says, why and for how long are the guardian angels appointed to us? And he says, man, while in this state of life, is on a road by which he should journey towards heaven. And on this road, man is threatened by many dangers, both from within and without. Therefore, as guardians, they are appointed for men who have to pass by an unsafe road. So God realizes life is treacherous, right? There's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of dangers. And so again, in his love and his concern for us, he has assigned an angel to each one of us to help us. But interestingly, when we die and when we're judged, that guardian angel is finished in a sense. He says when at the end of his life, he no longer has a guardian angel, but in the kingdom, he will have an angel to reign with him, and in hell, a demon to punish him. So I sometimes wonder, is that angel who reigns with us in heaven, if we're so blessed to get there, is that the same one, or does he assign like a different one? So, and I don't know that answer. So a couple other things to point out, Keith. But what do you think about all that?
It's very interesting, and I remember reading, and I can't remember what saint spoke on this, but basically, if one makes it to purgatory, there's the guardian angel still with them, which is really cool. Like, even though they're kind of going through the ropes and trying to get cleansed, the guardian angel is there to help them through that. So I think that was really cool.
Yeah, that would seem to stand to reason, because we're continuing to try to help people in purgatory. So why would the guardian angel do any less, right? There's an intriguing question. He says whether an angel is appointed to guard a man from his birth. And there was a debate in the early church about whether a guardian angel was assigned at baptism or at birth. And, I sometimes think with better science that Thomas may have come down and said, well, maybe at conception, at animation, the guardian angel. But he comes down saying that the guardian angel is going to be assigned at the moment of birth rather than at baptism, like some said. And then there's one other one that I find really interesting as well, whether angels grieve for the ills of those whom they guard. So let's say, God forbid, Keith, you were to fall into mortal sin, or I was today, would the angel be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, and that's not the case, because first of all, they are in beatitude, they've already received their judgments, so they are happy. And so we can't, you can't mourn, you can't have sadness or sorrow when you're happy. But more importantly, Aquinas says that their will cleaves entirely to the ordering of divine justice, while nothing happens in the world save what is affected or permitted by divine justice. And so they realize, as we should, that everything is ordered to divine justice and everything makes sense. So if we sin, there's going to be punishment. There's also the remedy of, confession or something like that. I guess the best comparison I can think of is when, if we or our wives have to discipline our children or put them in their room or put them in the corner or what have you. We don't enjoy doing it, but we know it's for the overall good. It's good for them. And so we don't, mourn, and we're not, sad. Oh my gosh, I can't believe my child's crying. there's actually a good, because we understand that in the big picture, this is good for them. And so I guess that might be a comparison to the angels. So and even if God forbid we are damned and we end up in hell, the angel will still see that as divine justice, and they still won't mourn. They'll be like, oh well, you deserve it. So anyways, hopefully, I guess the main point is that as you drive around, you see all these signs of death everywhere these next couple weeks. Remember that we are going to die, but God is going out of his way to help us get to heaven.
That's so good. Yeah, it's I like to think that now, as far as because I mentioned it the other day, my neighborhood is full of decorations, some less scary and spooky than others, but it's a good way to they're acknowledging that the death is going to happen to everybody, and it's good to remember your death every once in a while, even though some people might be doing it subconsciously. And then bringing it all together, talking about guardian angels, that's very helpful, because I don't think we talk enough about our guardian angels in this day. So it's very helpful.
Yeah. Some of it, the skeletons and the ghosts, that's all right. Some of it does get pretty weird. I mean, some of it's just downright sinister, and I think we just have to pray for those people, because I don't know quite what's going on in those heads. But again, in the big picture, God's got this under control, and I think even in that case, there is some calling out to God. There's some worry about death that's impending. And so I think we got to cut these people some slack, but also use it as opportunities to catechize.
Yeah, perfect way to catechize. My goodness. Well, so you also host Back to the Father every single Friday at 1 p.m. Central on GRN Online, YouTube. Can you give us a little teaser if the topic is going to be on Back to the Father?
Yeah, well, I think we'll talk about something like this. There's so much to talk about the angels, and I'm going to be on Debbie's show next month on the 13th, I believe, talking about angels in the Summa. So I'll be, talking about the angels. There's a whole lot of material to cover, and probably tying it into preparations for Halloween as well.
Incredible. Wow. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Dave. Thinking Out Loud and Back to the Father, Fridays at 1 p.m. Central, like I mentioned. Got to go to YouTube. Just search GRN Online. And that is it for the first hour of Morning Joy, where truth matters. You might be on your way to work or on your second cup of coffee. Either way, we'll still be here waiting for you patiently as we come back from our short break up next. Now, we will be talking in the next hour to Deanne Miller, co-founder of Soulcore. You're going to hang on to that and listen. It's very interesting stuff. But we'll be right here after this break on Morning Joy.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.